Are you confused by the new Luminar Neo portrait background removal tool? Are you getting results that are hit and miss and frustrated that it's not working right? Well, in this video, I'm going to give you some tips for success using the Luminar Neo background removal tool. Hi, I'm Darlene with Digital Photo Mentor, and I help beginning and intermediate photographers like you how to improve your work, right from capture in camera all the way through to the end of the editing process, in this case, using Luminar Neo. So if you're ready to remove the background, let's get started. I'm going to show you two examples. In this first one, we want to cut out the man from the background and change it. To find the background removal tool, it wasn't super intuitive to me when I first installed this update. I was looking for it in the portrait tools down here. But it's under a new thing at the top called layer properties. So just above the crop AI tool and below the histogram. When you open it up, this looks familiar. If you've added any additional layers previously, this is the same type of box that you get on a new layer. But there's something new here. If you go to masking, now you see the portrait background removal. So you just click it. It'll take a moment for Luminar to read your image and analyze it. Mine works pretty quickly because I have a very fast computer. And then you just have to click this button here, remove. So right out of the gate, it's not bad, but it's not perfect. And this is where I've seen a lot of discussion about this new tool online about what it's doing wrong. But the brushes that allow you to refine it actually work really well. Let me show you how it works. This panel down here, refinement brushes, when you open it, there's three components. The object or the subject is outlined or colored in orange. And you'll notice if you click on the object brush here, that it's color coordinated. So you can tell if you're painting for the object. The background is blue. Likewise, the button for the background is also blue. Transition is clear or transparent. And that's the zone that is in between the background and the subject. So all we have to do is define it a little bit better. I'm just going to zoom in. I'm using keyboard shortcuts to do that. To zoom in, the keyboard shortcut is Command or Control plus minus. If you'd like to download a free Luminar Neo keyboard shortcuts cheat sheet, that's a mouthful to say, there's a link to do so in the description area below. Now we just need to paint in the appropriate areas. So I'm going to zoom back in. I recommend zooming in to at least 50% or 100%. You'll get a better result the more you zoom in. You'll see that part of his hair has become transparent. So I'm going to just use the object button, make the brush a little smaller. There's a keyboard shortcut for that as well. You'll notice it's just square bracket keys, left and right. And then I'm just going to paint inside the edge of his hair. So I'm telling the program, hey, this is still the object. Don't make this transparent. Now you see that it's got part of the background wrong up here and it hasn't totally made it transparent. So I'm going to define the background with a slightly larger brush. And you notice I don't have to do the whole thing. I just have to tell it this area is background, and it just does some learning to figure out what it missed. I'm going to do that over here as well. Just one quick stroke. The other neat thing about it, and I'll show you this on the second example, is that if you have somebody with flyaway or stray hairs, you can actually use this tool to get rid of them really easily. Okay, let's check the bottom areas. So I'm just going around the edge and making sure that it looks pretty well defined. Let's check over here. I'm just going to do a transition here because it looks like it's got a little bit of the background still there. Right, see now it's missing his shirt. So I just have to define the side of his shirt, like so. Once you think you've got it pretty good, check all your edges. I recommend anywhere where there's hair to do a quick pass with the transition tool along the edge to let it know that the edges may be semi-transparent. Okay, now I've lost a part of his ear. I'll just put that back in. You see that it's having some trouble finding the edge of his ear. That's because the background and his ear are really similar tone. They're both fairly light. So I'm just kind of going back and forth here, defining a part of the background and narrowing it down for the program so it gets closer. We're getting pretty close there now. I'm going to use a smaller brush to just do the transition. Okay, hair again. I just get the edge of the hair. That looks good. And remember, if it goes too far and it makes it transparent, just go along the inside. Again, you don't have to be perfect. You just want to sort of get the edge. Then, when you think you have a pretty good job done here, just close the refinements brush and it'll go to transparent and you can check all the edges. I might do a little refinement here on his chin and maybe again around the ear. Now, if these brushes are not working, because in this case the tones are too similar, you can go and use the regular brushes as well. So I'm going to use erase to get rid of it near his ear. I'm just going to lower the strength a little bit. And I'm just going to kind of run along the edge like this to get rid of any bits that it missed. It looks like there is some up here as well. Now the real test, adding the new background. To add the new layer, just click the plus sign and then select an image. I've chosen one that is a brick and stucco wall. Increase the opacity to 100 and then just reorder the layers. So you can either drag the top one to the bottom like this, putting it back, or you can drag the bottom one to the top. Either way. Once the layer with the man is on top, you can see the background disappears. So now I want to address the next thing for success. Our cutout looks pretty good, looks pretty realistic, but there's two issues. The color doesn't match, so I want to either adjust the color of the portrait or the background, and the lighting sort of doesn't match. On him, the light is coming from the left, so I might actually want to darken the background on the right. Make sure you're on the right layer, so I'm on the background layer, and using the develop tool, just slide the exposure down, and then we're just going to use a linear gradient mask. So I'm just going to drag it out like this. So it's only applying the darkening on this side of the wall. Now it sort of matches the lighting on him. Can you see how that's working well? The other thing is if you zoom in, he's not super sharp, but the wall is. So I can either sharpen him, which I will do, or blur the background image, which I will also do. We're still on this background layer, so I'm going to apply negative structure. I found that this one actually works pretty well when making a background, boost in particular. So I'm going to go negative amount, like so. And then I'm going to fix the color. Remember I said the color was a little bit off? I'm going to try a lot. And I know that there are some that are orange. Okay, that's a little bit too orange, so I'm going to dial it back a little bit. Can you see how at 0, the background is a little bit cool and the lighting on him is very orange? Now, if I bring this up, they match a little bit better. So you want to make sure that the image quality on the background and the image match, as well as the lighting direction and quality of light. That's looking pretty good in terms of the background. One last thing I'm going to do here is just add a vignette. So my little trick for vignettes is turn the feather all the way down and then adjust the positioning. Then turn the feather back up and adjust the amount to something a bit more reasonable. Now it's looking a little more like a studio portrait, right? I want to go back to the layer of the guy. These little spots in his glasses are sort of bothering me, so I'm just going to use the erase tool to take them out. Watch what a difference just a little bit of editing does. That looks better. So I'll share a trick with you. If you go to the details panel and increase the small detail slider, you'll see that it really does a nice job to make the image look sharper. It kind of looks grainy now though, so don't go too far. Just take it high enough to sharpen the image a little bit, and of course you can always mask it off of his skin. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I think that's pretty good. I'll do a little bit of medium details and the sharpened slider, as well as masking. Let's just see what this tool is doing. So before, look at his face, particularly his eyes, much sharper. I think overall it looks good. I'm just going to add a vignette onto the image of the man. And the point of that is to get the bottom part a little darker as well. Take the attention off of his hands and his arms. Let me just bring that in. You see what that's going to do? Like that. And just soften it a little bit. See how that's removing the light from the bottom part of the image? That looks good. I still think he looks a little bit orange, so I'm going to go to the color tool and use this remove color cast slider. And look what a great job that does. It also kind of adds some mood and darkens him a little bit overall. And I think we're done. Let's do before and after. This is a stock image that I downloaded from Unsplash, and it was obviously taken on location, but we've made it into something that looks more like a portrait in a studio. Let me show you a harder example with more complex masking necessary. I've already finished this one to show you the before and after. This is the original image. It's very green in terms of the color tint, and it's got a lot of gaps and spaces in amongst the hair that's a difficult mask to do. So let me go back to the layer of her, which is the original image, and I'm just going to remove the masking and show you how I did it. Let me turn this layer off. I'm just going to hide it for the moment. So we're looking at the transparency. When we zoom in, look at what a decent job it's doing around the really complex subject, which is her hair. I also did some editing on the image of her to correct the color a little bit, smooth out her skin, and some eye retouching, as well as the same trick for sharpening. So let me remove the mask. Now you can see what I've done to the original image. I corrected the color using the color tool, brightened it, and adjusted the white balance using develop. Did some face light and facial retouching, eye retouching, smoothed the skin, erased some blemishes that it missed, sharpened it using that same details trick I just showed you, and finally, with the last color, tone down this bright orange jacket so it's not quite so in your face. So now let's see about removing this background. So to remove the background, go to Layer Properties, Masking, and Portrait Background again. You'll notice that the analysis portion was almost immediate here. That's because I've already done this image. It's already scanned it once. So it should be pretty quick this time. Okay, it's removed it. Let's zoom in and see how good a job it did. This one is really tricky because there's lots of spots like in between the earrings and her ear where the background should show through. And you can see that it did get this one, but it didn't get this earring. And you can also see that there's bits around the hair that still look like the gray background is showing. So let's use the refinement tools. So I'm going to start just by going to the background tool and putting just a tiny, tiny little dot inside the earring here, just to tell it that there should be some background in there. And then I'm just going to go around the earring like so, and you should see it fill that area in or empty it in this case. And there's a little bit of her hair. If we look at the before image, so here's a little trick. Just hold the backslash key. You can see the original. There's a little bit of hair sticking out from her earring here. Remember how I said you can actually remove things that are sticking out? I'm going to tell the program that's part of the background. See that? Now it's gone. I'm going to go with the background brush a little bit larger, and I'm just going to go around a little bit closer to the hair, like so. Then I'm going to go with the transition brush, and you want to go over the hair a couple of times. So I want to do this area first. See, that's already better. And then I'm just going to do the edge of the hair here, and then up to the top. Close the refinement brush. I just want to see how it's doing. The hair looks better for sure. Up to here was looking pretty good. I still think there's some spots in between here that we could get. So I'm going to zoom in even farther. And I'm going to use the object brush, small. And I'm going to tell it, okay, this is solid. Basically, that's what you're doing with the object brush. You're saying, this is solid. Do not remove it. This is part of the subject. And I'm going to trick it. I'm going to try something here. I'm just going to try putting little bits of background, just little dots in here, and see if it sort of gets the idea that there should be some transparency here. I'm not sure how well this is going to work. This is an experiment. Okay, it looks kind of weird here, but let's just try it. Close the brush. There's too much transparency now. But now I'm going to use the transition brush again and just go over it. Okay, so I've told it there's bits of background in there. Now I'm telling it the opposite. So I think it just kind of helps it to learn which parts are which. Just a little trick I sort of figured out. See how good that's looking? I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of her hair, and I'll speed up the video so you can join me again when I'm on the other side. Okay, this looks pretty good. Let's turn the background layer on again. Do you see any halos? Zoom in, and any bits that don't look quite right, just go back and do the mask with the bottom layer showing this time. So I'm going to go back here to the refinement brush. Just this area in here perhaps needs a little bit more transition. That looks pretty close, right? If you get areas like this around the subject where you get a halo, see this here? I'm going to try something with the portrait bokeh tool. So drag it up quite high. Let the portrait bokeh tool do its job. You can see the mask there. Then drag the brightness to the left to darken it. I took the depth correction all the way to the left and the edge correction all the way to the left as well. So that's basically shrinking in the edge. Give it a little bit of warmth as well. And then I'm just going to bring the amount down a little bit. Watch the hair just above her shoulders as I turn the tool off and on. It just takes away the edges a little bit. Let's see if it solved the problem over here as well. There's still a tiny bit of a halo down beside her jacket around her hip area. So I'm just going to close this and go back up to the mask. We could go back in to do the portrait background masking again, or just use a regular brush this time. So I'm just going to use a regular brush, and I'll show you my little trick. Just use erase, lower the softness of the brush because we want to get close to the edge, and the strength. Then, using a smaller brush, just kind of touch the edge and see if you can get rid of that glow. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just want it to blend in with the new background. See how that's working? So I'll do that all the way along the edge of her arm, like so. And here's the finished image. Pretty good, right? Is it a little bit of work? Yes, But if you were to do this in Photoshop, I think it would take longer, and you need to know how to use Photoshop, and you need to have Photoshop. So if you don't own Adobe products and you don't want to, Luminar Neo does a great job. One thing I want to just mention is set yourself up for success and set your expectations where they should be. For example, this image that I have on the screen now would be very difficult to remove the background because her hair is black and the background is black. It's going to be very difficult for the program to find the edge. Likewise, in a scene like this, where the subject is touching part of the scene or the background, you may have to manually mask the table or the desk out yourself. But the few images that I've tried with Luminar Neo, I've had quite a bit of success with. The before image of this one, I thought was going to fool Luminar Neo. Take a look. It's pretty complex. And right out of the gate, when I hit remove background the first time, it was pretty close. I spent less than 5 minutes doing this. If you like my tips and want more learning about Luminar Neo, I have a full course available. Just click the link in the description area below to get more information. Watch this video next to learn more about how to use layers with Luminar Neo. Please remember to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notifications. Until next time, take care and thanks for watching.